Good morning. Welcome to our new webinar, Grow Your Business with Creative Stories. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Roxy George and I currently lead a company called Roxy Digital, which is a media production company based in Ireland. A little bit about me before we jump into the webinar. I have 15 plus years of media experience, which means media production, video production, business and marketing strategy. Keep in mind, everything we're discussing today is in the context of business. So creating creative stories within a business context to enhance better customer experience. Okay, so here's a quick overview of the things that we're going to cover today. The first is how to establish powerful stories. The second is what framework that we can set or learn in order to create these nice stories. And then we're going to take a look at some of the examples of these stories, the elements that's already out there. And then finally, we're going to learn how to build these stories within our company setup. So starting with stories, we should remember that the story should always be memorable. It should inspire or empower your audience, whatever that may be, so that they could take the action. So there is always a call to action at the end of the video. In life, we always tend to remember great experiences and also not that great experiences. So things like you have a fantastic experience in a restaurant, you always talk about that with your friend circle or family circle. Same way, if you had a terrible experience, you tend to remember that as well. So I think there's two peaks always that we remember. Either it's a fantastic or not that fantastic. Anything in between, we tend to not to remember as such. That works exactly same in good stories as well. Always try to come up with a concept that's unique and memorable. And I think something that we're going to discuss later in this webinar will help you craft these stories as well. So now let's look at a framework on how we can do this. Okay, so here is the framework that we use within our firm. It's called a three-part framework: problem, guide, and a solution. Problem is what's out there in the market space that is frustrating. So it could be a product, it could be a solution from you that's going to fix this, but you need to establish the problem first. And then the second is a guide. A guide is obviously yourself as a company who is actually guiding your audience to the solution. And the solution is your product or services that you're offering. And so that's a nice framework that you can put together a good story for your company. And one thing we need to keep in mind is when people ask mostly about your stories, people tend to talk about their product or services. If you're a sole trader or an entrepreneur working yourself, you tend to focus on the products or services that you offer. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not your story. Your product or your service is not your story. Your story should always come from the vision of your company. Use that as a springboard to pitch your story. Because if you use your product or service as a story, it tends to change depending on your mood and depending on who you're talking to. Whereas if it's your vision that is driving, it will always be consistent. So what do I mean by that? Here is an example. Imagine that you sell gym equipment for a living, okay? So if you don't have a story that you meet a potential client, you say, if they ask you, what do? You say, hey, I sell treadmills. Let's reframe that, the story. Okay, so now if you ask me and I'm the one who's selling the treadmill, and I see you in the street, and then we started talking about things, and then you asked me, okay, what do you do for a living? And I say, we're in the business of changing people's thinking. and their lifestyle by keeping them fit. And in order to do that, we designed the state-of-the-art treadmill that is one of a kind, would help you achieve that. So basically, something along those lines. I'm not saying that's the exact way, but it's coming from a vision of helping people change their lifestyle and keeping them fit. And it happened to be that we sell this tool, treadmill, that would help you achieve that. So that is just an example of how you can reframe your story. So instead of me saying I sell treadmill, I craft a story, and I build that story, and I push that story out of the lifestyle. Okay. Here are some of the example ideas of stories that you can share. Company stories, customer success stories, product or service stories, team or specialist job role stories. So keep this in mind. When you do company stories, make sure you don't go heavy on company histories. Remember, histories are a little different from stories. It's good to talk about the founder and the circumstances when the company was founded, but always focus on your values and the vision of the company, where you are at the minute. The difference in vision and mission. So this is how I place vision and mission. Vision is where you're going as a company, and mission is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to get there. Moving on, customer success story. This is one of my favorite stories that I like to use to produce as well for companies. And testimonies are so powerful, and it's important that you showcase those testimonies. But think of it this way. It's always good for your customer to explain how happy they are directly than you saying your customers are happy. It just builds that trust. And also think of win-win situation. So if your customer would like to share a little bit about what they do, it's always good that it gives an opportunity for them to showcase what they do along with the partnership that you've been in with them. And here is an example of a great customer success story.
First, there's a swim, which is 2.4 miles. Then there's a 112-mile bike, and you finish it off with a marathon. And so in total, it's 140.6 miles and a very long day. Competing in triathlon, you're constantly having to deal with setbacks and having to come up with ways to overcome those. There's no question that has spilled over into the workplace. It's all about discipline and pacing yourself in this world where things are changing very quickly.
The market is changing super fast with different solutions across various countries, which was a big challenge.
I think the customer journey today looks different for literally every single consumer. Salesforce allows us to really understand who we're talking to and what's important to them. And so what we're able to do is stitch together all the individual moments of interaction into one cohesive, connected customer experience.
Well, AI allows us to provide great experiences that consumers want and do it at scale.
And I'm convinced that this rich data will help us to really fulfill all the customer needs and expectations, so we can provide them more personalized solutions and build a long-term relationship.
The thing that I care about most being a CIO is people, and that has to lead you. I have so much passion for beauty and for L'Oreal in this industry and creating these great experiences.
Athletes tend to be really good team players, and Michael's an athlete who's a really great team player.
We're just finishing the first mile of the marathon, and I think we're happy with the pace of that first mile, but we know there's still 25 plus miles to go. There's no finish line for us at L'Oreal.
The next one I want to touch base is products or services story. Product or services stories are powerful too. And the beauty of this is the best time you can showcase how your product or services will change people's lives. Again, those are big terms, but I wanted to emphasize the importance of how your product or service is immersed in people's lives on a day-to-day basis. And the best part to do this is, instead of talking about just your product or service, talk about the person who would be using your product or service on a day-to-day basis. And talk about what they do so that people can relate to it. They can understand the importance of using your services on a day-to-day basis. Here is a great product story.
So, you've taken up running. Apple Watch has taken up a few new things as well. First, it tracked your distance. Now, it's tracking your stride length. It learns your favorite route, then lets you race against yourself.
You're behind.
Yeah, you're behind.
When you're swimming, it can tell a breaststroke from a backstroke from a kickboard. And when you're done, it dries itself off. This isn't a dream. Your watch can take an ECG. But if it was a dream, that watch would track your REM sleep down to the minute. It checks your heart rate. It checks for temperature changes to estimate when you've ovulated. It checks out when you're buying spaghetti. It could already detect if you fell. Now the microphone detects impact noise, the accelerometer senses rapid deceleration, and the barometer measures a shift in pressure consistent with an airbag going off. So it can check if you need help after a serious car crash. And hey, it also shows your ground contact time.
Amazing.
Have a nice run.
Team or job roles. This is another best place to showcase your company culture. Talk about the strategies that you use within the company. What are some of the different frameworks that you've used within the company to build better products? Talk about the different roles within your firm and what they do, and even what you do on a weekly basis. I remember a few years ago when we started our company, I talked to the owner of Digital Telepathy based in San Diego, and he was talking about the company culture, and I fell in love with it. And then we've tried to replicate quite a bit from them. They're bought over by another company at the minute, but they had special Fridays. Every month they have some kind of a get together, and all that kind of stuff would just help the team to build a better bonding. And not just that, you share those stories within your company, so it helps enhance and build better relationship internally and with your clients as well. And so now we know exactly what are some of the ways we can use those stories. So now we need to focus on how to actually create the stories within your firm. So instead of starting with your product or services, start with your vision. Nail your vision down first, and then use that as a springboard to create multiple stories. As I mentioned previously, if your vision is not clear, then your stories tend to be different in different time as you explain to people from a product standpoint. So if your vision is one, you always stick with that and move forward. And then the next thing is picture your end goal first. Always describe the scenario of who is going to watch your video and where they're going to watch and what device they're going to watch. I mean, as you know, that most people are on Instagram and Facebook, so it's on the phone. So how can we produce it in a way that's more of customer first approach and the design first approach, and see that they have a better experience as they see the video? So you're working backwards instead of working forward. And once you have that kind of scenario, then you know exactly which tool to use, what camera to use, where to shoot, and all that kind of stuff. And the next stage is write and plan the story. When I say write and plan the story, not like pages and pages of story, all I mean is just outline your story, cast, topic, how long, what mood or style, what type of music, and then you can have a clear picture of where to do it and when to do it and the length and all that kind of stuff. And the planning starts from using a mood board as well. Look up and see, I mean, there are tons of videos out there. See what inspires you the most and what style they've used, what kind of language they used. Is it fast-paced, slow-paced? There's tons of examples, but it all kind of comes down to your target audience, what experience you want them to have at the end of watching that video, and also what call to action that you want them to take after watching this video. And then the final step is do it. You have to do it in order to make an impact. So test it out within your team and use your gadget that you have within your team. And if it's not working out, then look around and see if you have any companies around your place, video production agencies, see their work and see if it's good, and then hire them to do it, you know. Well, that's kind of the top level points that I wanted to cover. Now, I've also got one more bonus point today, and which is if you wanted to kind of get to the market space quickly and also build the trust quickly as well, the best way to do that is a day in the life of video. Show what you do as a company, pick a role, pick one person or two, and build consistently a day in the life of. Because that would build the trust between your clients quickly, showcasing what you do behind the scenes. Everybody thinks you're busy. Everyone knows that you're busy. We are all busy. But busy doing what is the most important question. But if you could showcase how you structure your day, how you do your amazing work so that you produce amazing results, the best way to do that is day in the life of video. Here's a great example of a day in the life of video.
Here, I've found a way to have the best of both worlds. As an engineer with Marcus, I've helped instill a startup culture at Goldman Sachs while pursuing my personal passions. My career has taken me across the globe to work with incredible talent, forge lifelong bonds, and create products that help customers achieve financial well-being. I'm here because I've built a family at work and at home.
Okay, so here's a quick recap. What are some of the top videos that you can produce in order to build amazing impacts? You could talk about company stories. You could produce customer success stories, product or service videos, team or specialist job that's within your firm, along with a day in the life video. Make sure you have a strong vision within your company. Picture your end goal first. See and describe who your audience are, what they want to see and hear, and then write your plan within your team and come up with the layout, cast, and topic ideas. And then finally do it. That's the most important thing. You have to work with it. Thank you again for joining me this morning. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. You can reach me at hello@roxy-digital.com, or you can visit our website, roxy-digital.com. I hope this was good for you, and thank you again for joining. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Happy to reply. Have a wonderful day.